There comes a moment in every life when the heart grows tired of explaining itself. A moment when the soul quietly whispers enough, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with a calm that is stronger than any argument. And it is in that moment that a person begins to understand something the world rarely teaches. That respect is not begged for, it is demonstrated. Now, I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine walking into a room where people once spoke over you, doubted you, dismissed you, treated your kindness like weakness and your silence like permission. Imagine walking into that same room again, but this time you carry something different. Not louder words, not sharper comebacks, not revenge. You carry presence. And presence has a voice louder than shouting. You see, toxic people have a strange talent. They study softness the way hunters study footprints. They watch how quickly you apologize, how easily you forgive, how often you shrink yourself just to keep the peace. And once they see that you will bend, they will lean. And once they see that you will explain, they will question. And once they see that you will tolerate, they will test. But the day you stop performing your pain for their approval, the day the entire dynamic changes. Because toxic people thrive on reaction. They feed on your frustration. They grow stronger on your need to prove yourself. They survive on the energy you spend trying to make them understand you. And the most powerful thing you will ever do in your life is to stop giving them that energy. Not once in a while. Not when you're in a good mood, but completely. There is a kind of silence that is not weakness. It is not fear. It is not surrender. It is a silence that stands up straight. A silence that says, I have measured the value of my peace, and it is far greater than the value of your opinion. And when you reach that place, something extraordinary happens. You stop arguing with disrespect. You stop negotiating with cruelty. You stop explaining your worth to people who have already decided not to see it. Instead, you do one simple thing. You change how you respond. You see, disrespect cannot survive without access. It needs your attention. It needs your participation. It needs your willingness to keep standing in the same storm, hoping the wind will apologize. But when you quietly step out of that storm, the wind has nothing left to push against. Let me tell you something powerful tonight. A person who truly respects themselves does not spend their life teaching others how to treat them. They show it once, and then they live it. They walk away from conversations that poison their spirit. They refuse to shrink in rooms that require them to be smaller than their truth. They do not argue their boundaries. They live them. And boundaries spoken through action are the most powerful language in the world because words can be debated. But behavior cannot be misunderstood. You can argue with someone's sentence, but you cannot argue with someone's absence. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, but if I don't defend myself, won't they think they've won? Let me tell you something. Peace is never a loss. Walking away from disrespect is never defeat. And refusing to wrestle in the mud with someone who enjoys dirt is the highest form of wisdom. Toxic people often mistake patience for weakness. They mistake kindness for submission. They mistake silence for surrender until one day they meet a version of you that no longer negotiates with disrespect. A version of you that has learned a quiet but powerful truth. Not everyone deserves access to your heart. Not everyone deserves access to your time. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your spirit. And when that realization settles into your bones, something remarkable happens. Your energy changes. Your posture changes. Your eyes begin to carry a calm that unsettles those who once thrived on provoking you. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-giving. You stop over-tolerating. You become clear. Clear in what you allow. Clear in what you walk away from. Clear in the understanding that your peace is not a public resource for anyone to consume. And toxic people feel that clarity. They may not understand it, but they feel it because the person they once manipulated with guilt now answers with distance. The person they once controlled with criticism now answers with quiet confidence. The person they once drained now stands before them, emotionally unavailable to their chaos. And suddenly the game changes. But I want you to hear this carefully tonight. The power is not in proving them wrong. The power is in no longer needing them to see you correctly. Let that settle in your heart. Because so many beautiful souls waste years trying to correct the vision of people who are committed to misunderstanding them. But freedom arrives the moment you accept that some people see you through the fog of their own insecurity, and you do not clear that fog by shouting. You clear it by walking in your own light. Now listen closely. There is one action, just one, that shifts everything. You stop rewarding disrespect with your presence. You stop attending arguments designed to drain you. You stop explaining yourself to ears that only listen for ammunition. And when you do this, you will notice something. At first, toxic people will push harder. They will question your silence. They will try to provoke the old version of you because people who benefit from your lack of boundaries feel threatened when you grow them. But if you stay steady, if you stay calm, if you stay rooted in the quiet dignity of your self-respect, they will eventually learn something they never expected. You are no longer available for their games. You see, there's a sacred transformation that happens when a person learns the art of emotional non-participation. It is the moment you realize you do not have to attend every battle you are invited to. It is the moment you realize that not every opinion deserves your response. It is the moment you realize that some people only feel powerful when they can disturb your peace. And when your peace becomes unshakable, their power disappears. Now let me say something important. This path is not easy because many of us were raised to keep the peace at any cost. We were taught to be polite, even when we were being disrespected. We were taught to be understanding, even when we were being mistreated. We were taught to explain ourselves even when we had done nothing wrong. And unlearning that takes courage. It takes courage to say my kindness is not an invitation for cruelty. It takes courage to say I will not continue conversations that insult my dignity. It takes courage to say I do not need to defend my worth to anyone committed to devaluing it. But once you cross that bridge, you will never want to return. Because on the other side lies a version of you that is calm, centered, and deeply grounded in self-respect. And that version of you does something extraordinary. They make toxic people uncomfortable, not by yelling, not by insulting, but by refusing to participate in dysfunction. You see, toxicity needs reaction to survive. It needs drama. It needs emotional chaos. But when it meets a person who answers hostility with calm distance, the entire structure collapses. And suddenly, the same people who once disrespected you begin to treat you differently. Not because you forced them to, but because you removed the reward for mistreating you. Let me say that again for the people in the back. You remove the reward. Disrespect. Stop being entertaining. Manipulation. Stop being effective. Provocation. Stop producing reaction. And when the reward disappears, the behavior loses its purpose. Now, I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow with a quiet decision in your heart. Not a loud declaration, not a dramatic speech, just a quiet commitment to yourself. A commitment that says, I will not argue with people who profit from my pain. I will not shrink to make others comfortable with their disrespect. I will not explain my boundaries to those who benefit from crossing them. And you live that commitment calmly, consistently, silently, and watch how the world changes around you. Watch how the same people who once dismissed you begin to measure their words more carefully. Watch how the same voices that once mocked you grow quieter. Watch how respect begins to appear, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Because the truth is this: when you truly respect yourself, the atmosphere around you shifts. You stop chasing validation. You stop negotiating your dignity. You stop proving your value. And in that quiet confidence, something powerful happens. The people who cannot respect you remove themselves. The people who value you draw closer. And the noise of toxic voices fades into the background of a life finally lived in peace. So tonight, I want to leave you with one simple truth. You do not silence toxic people with arguments. You silence them with standards. Standards so clear, standards so calm, standards so unmovable. That disrespect no longer finds a place to land in your life. There is a quiet power that lives inside a person who has finally learned the value of their own standards. Not loud power, not the kind that needs applause or approval, but a steady, grounded power that stands tall even when the room grows silent. The kind of power that does not beg to be seen. Yet it changes the atmosphere wherever it walks. Your standards decide who is allowed to stay in your life. That sentence is simple, but the truth inside it has the strength to transform a life completely. Many people spend years believing that love means endurance. They believe loyalty means tolerating what wounds them. They believe kindness means allowing people to cross lines that should never have been touched. So they open their doors wide. They open their hearts wide. They make room for everyone. And slowly, without noticing, their peace begins to disappear. Because when standards are missing, boundaries become invisible. When boundaries are invisible, people with careless intentions walk in freely. They sit at your table. They drink from your energy. They take from your patience. And because you were taught to be understanding, you keep adjusting. You keep explaining. You keep forgiving. But there comes a day when the soul grows tired of being generous with people who are careless with it. There comes a moment when you look at your own life and realize that the exhaustion you feel is not from doing too much, but from allowing too much. That moment is the beginning of self-respect. Standards are not walls meant to isolate you from the world. They are doors that allow the right people to enter and quietly close behind those who should not remain. Standards are the gentle guardians of your peace. They protect the dignity of your spirit and the calm of your mind. Without them, life becomes a crowded room where everyone has access to you, but very few value you. And the truth is, many people who disrespect you are not confused about how they should treat you. They are simply responding to what you have been willing to accept. If you tolerate sarcasm disguised as humor, it grows. If you excuse manipulation disguised as love, it repeats. If you forgive cruelty disguised as honesty, it becomes normal. Not because you deserve it, but because standards were never clearly drawn. A person with clear standards carries a different energy. There is a calm firmness in their presence. They are kind, but they are not easily bent. They are compassionate, but they are not easily controlled. Their kindness is not permission for disrespect. They understand something many people learn too late. Access to their life is a privilege, not a guarantee. And privileges are earned through care, respect, and honesty. Think about the homes we live in. When we value our home, we lock the doors at night. We do not leave the windows wide open for anyone to walk through. Not because we hate people, but because we value what is inside. Your peace deserves the same protection. Your heart deserves the same protection. Your time deserves the same protection. Yet, so many people guard their possessions more carefully than they guard their emotional well-being. They will lock their cars but leave their hearts open to anyone willing to manipulate them. They will protect their money but allow people to spend their energy without gratitude. Standards change that. Standards say, this is how I treat others, and this is how I expect to be treated. Standards say, me kindness is not unlimited for those who misuse it. Standards say, if your presence consistently brings chaos, your presence will no longer remain. The beautiful thing about standards is that they do not require loud explanations. They do not require dramatic confrontations. They are lived quietly through decisions. You decide which conversations you continue. You decide which behaviors you ignore. You decide which people remain close. And sometimes the most powerful decision is distance. Not angry distance, not revengeful distance, just calm distance. Distance that protects your spirit. Distance that allows you to breathe again. Distance that reminds people that your presence is not something they can take for granted. When standards rise,